What if we had KPIs in our marriage, guys? What if we had KPIs that said, hey, listen, you know what? How many times have I prayed for my spouse this week? How many times have I prayed with my spouse? How many times have I encouraged her this week? When's the last time I sent flower? When's the last time that I had a date night with my wife? Well, hey, champions, welcome back to another episode of the Champion Life Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Curt Tucker, coming live today from the beach. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the sun setting behind me. And I wanted to bring an episode to you today talking about 3 ways to win more in your marriage. Who doesn't want to win more in their marriage? You know, my wife, Rachel, and we just came back from a marriage mastermind that we are a part of. And about 4 times a year, we collectively meet as a group with Keith Craft and his wife and a bunch of other leaders across the country. And we discuss marriage. Now, we discuss more than marriage. We discuss life. We discuss business. We discuss all kinds of different things. And you might hear things throughout this podcast, planes flying in the background, waves crashing behind me. But what we do is it's a mastermind. And so I want you to think about that. Like, what is a mastermind? Like, what is a group of people or the group of people that you're surrounding yourself that is helping you win in marriage? And so today I'm going to talk to you about 3 things that you can do that you can begin to implement in your marriage, whether you're male or female, that will have a game-changing effect on your marriage. And I want to tell you a little story. So the other day, my wife, she was on with some of her ladies that she coaches, and they have a prayer Marco Polo that kind of goes back and forth. One of the prayer requests the other day, one of the ladies mentioned, hey, listen, how can I get my husband to begin to start doing the things that he said he was going to do? Now, camp out there for a second, especially you ladies who are listening into this podcast. Have you ever been there before? Have you ever been there before where your husband said he was going to do something and then he didn't follow through? Or even for you men, have you ever had your wife say she was going to do something and she didn't follow through, right? You know, hey, we're going to have sex tonight. And then it didn't happen. You know, hey, honey, from the husband to the wife, I'll go ahead, I'll take care of that. I'll get that house project done. And it didn't get done week after week, month after month, whatever. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you on today's episode about how can we, begin to start doing things in specific order, because I think that's important, to get the result that we're looking for. So the 3 things that I'm going to talk with you guys today about is prayer, number 1, encouragement, number 2, and accountability, number 3. And trust me, you're going to want to hang around to the end of this episode, friends. So let's talk about prayer. The reason why I chose prayer as number 1, friends, is because, as my pastor Andy would say, prayer should not be our last resort. It should be our first response. See, too many times when life's not going the way that we want it to go, our marriage isn't going the way that we want it to go, we begin to immediately start trying to fix everything on our own. Or we might, for the ladies out there, call your girlfriends and tattletale on your husband, or go try to get wisdom from somebody who doesn't have wisdom, right? That's the reason why my wife and I are marriage coaches, but we're also a part of a marriage mastermind with somebody who is further along than us. Why? Because if I'm going to get wisdom in my marriage, it's not going to be from somebody who doesn't have fruit in their own marriage. Okay. So too many times I see people that will go and try to get wisdom in their marriage. For me personally, guys, early on when we were having a lot of troubles in our marriage and things weren't going good, it would be meeting somebody at the bar and having a beer and talking about our marriage. That was never good. Okay. Or, for a lot of ladies, their girlfriends, it's, hey, listen, you know what you need? You need a night out. Let's do a girls' night out. And then what happens is a group of women, they go out and they go to the bar and they hang out and they drink and whatever, and we know that's never a good scenario. So I want you to think about this. The first thing that I want to encourage you to do, not just when you have a problem, by the way, in your marriage, okay, but every single day, is look at your prayer life. How often are you praying for your spouse? And men, specifically for you, how often are you praying with your spouse? See, I'm going to say to the men right now, because guys, that's your job. That's your role as the leader, is to, make it a priority, take action on it, to pray with your wife. For me, guys, Rachel and I, each and every morning, we have our own separate time of devotion where we like to pray and journal and, do our own morning routine. But it is always my job. It's my responsibility. It's something I take pride in doing, that I message my wife every single morning and I say, hey, are you good in 10? Now, we typically have a design time back home, and we have for many years, depending on what kids' school schedules look like and all those things, where we would meet at a specific time every morning. But that is a locked in, must happen thing that I have created as a priority in our marriage, that I am responsible for leading. I am responsible for initiating, so that we can come together and we can pray together every single day. And here's the reason why, friends, we don't do it at night. Because I want to be armored up as I go out into the world, understanding that there is an enemy that is coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And the number one thing that the enemy wants to destroy, friends, is your marriage. When he can divide a family, when he can literally destroy a village, all the things that happens when we see divorce happen. And so we are very passionate. We are very pro marriage. My wife and I are, like, literally, we will do anything and everything we can to help another couple remain married. Giving them the tools, giving them the resources, giving them what my wife likes to call, hey, we can fast track you. Because, here's the deal, guys, is we're speaking from experience. It wasn't just always, the way it is today, where we have the ability to communicate. We're praying every single day. We've learned how to fight fair. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes fights don't get ugly. We're real humans here. We're both two passionate, type A individuals. So what we've learned over the years, though, from years ago, where we literally were on the verge of a divorce and all the stuff that we've went through, and trust me, we've went through everything you can think of in our marriage and then some. But one thing I've known, Fred, is that prayer creates peace. When you have the ability to, face an issue in your marriage, and there can be a lot of issues that come up from communication. Everything stems from communication, but it could be your sex life, it can be your kids, it can be financial stuff, it can be whatever. The moment that you can turn to prayer first, friends, and just pray that God would give you wisdom on how to proceed in a particular situation in your marriage, or what I like to call an opportunity, because isn't that what every issue is in a marriage? It's an opportunity to grow. Like, what if us entrepreneurs treated every issue that we had in our marriage like an opportunity, no different than in your business? Okay. Now, all of a sudden, guess what happens is that prayer muscle begins to build. And guess what happens when we begin to start praying more? God begins to start working on our spouse's heart. And so the reason why I think this is so important, number one being prayer, is because, that was the encouragement that I gave to the ladies the other day. I said, hey, listen, I don't believe that your husband is saying that he wants to change, that he literally wants to level up, that he wants to make more money, that he wants to lead his family better, like all these different things. And he just says that to you so that he can not follow through. So then, therefore, you can use that against him and essentially, berate him. And I'm not saying that that's what that lady was doing, but I'm just saying that that happens so often in marriage, is when one person says they're going to do something and then they don't do it, they don't follow through on it. Now, all of a sudden, all the accusations come. all the you should have done this, you didn't do that, you never do this, you always do that, all those nevers and always and all those things begin to start flying out. And guess what happens? Defense starts to come in. Offense is taken. All right. Pride, at the end of the day, pride is the number one thing that causes people to not change. Humility, and that's a whole nother topic. But what I encourage the ladies is I said, listen, if you will begin to just do number two, which is encourage your husband, all right, watch and see what happens. I remember a friend telling a story one time, and maybe it was a pastor actually that was speaking on marriage, and he was speaking on ladies. If you want your man to literally do anything you want him to do, compliment him in front of his peers. Compliment him in front of other men, in front of his friends, in front of his work peer group or whatever, and watch and see if that man will not run through a wall for you. Because here's what happens, and I see this all the time, is a spouse will talk negatively. They'll tell a little joke about their spouse in front of a group of friends, and you can literally see that person being deflated in real time. Watch as you interact with maybe the couples that you hang out with right now. Okay, and see, does that happen? And you can just see a person being deflated, especially a man, because a man's number one need is honor. It's respect. So if a man feels dishonored, if a man feels disrespected because the woman is sitting there and berating him about all the things that he doesn't do, well, guess what happens? That just creates a vicious cycle. And I'm speaking to the ladies right now because I know what this feels like. It's a feeling that sucks for the man. And I want to help you by saying one thing, that the man should be the leader in the marriage. But I can only speak from experience that I feel so blessed and thankful that I had a woman that had to learn how to encourage me. Okay. Learn how to love is a different story. Okay. Because my wife, Rachel, had her own problems when it came to learning how to love because of her own past. And if you want to hear more about that, get her latest book. Okay. Because she talks all about how to heal what she calls a gypsy heart. Okay. Because when you deal with things that my wife went through with fatherlessness and, not having a dad that loved her well and all those different things, that creates a wound in a woman. All right. And so I want to encourage you ladies that if you're in a marriage where you're trying to get your man to go next level, you're trying to get him to do the things that he says he wants to do, but he's not doing, just start with prayer. Pray that God would give him wisdom. God would give him a heart that would want to take action and change and follow through, but begin to start just encouraging him and pointing out all the little things that he is doing, and even speaking things over him that he may not even be doing. Let me give you an example. I told the ladies the other day, I said, what if you just on a daily basis or maybe, every 2 or 3 days or weekly told your husband, hey, you know what? Thank you for just being so committed to growing and becoming better for us and for our family. I've been noticing that you've been doing this and this and this. It could be just pointing out the little things, all right? And continuing to let him know how appreciative you are that he's going next level, that he's at least doing certain things. You've got to begin to look for what it is that he's doing right, not what he's doing wrong. Okay? Men, same thing for you. If your wife is taking care of things in the home, if she's taking care of your kids, if she's assisting you in different ways, whatever, let her know how much you are appreciate her. Send some flowers, men. Okay. Not just send some flowers, leave a note in the car that says, honey, thank you so much before you pull out the garage. Stick it on the steering wheel. So when she goes to take the kids to school or go get some groceries or whatever the case scenario is, friends, she sees that note. Send her a text message during the day, letting her know, thank you. If you want to have some awesome sex that night, guys, trust me, you can't just come home and just turn on the microwave because women don't work that way. There's a saying, women are like crock pots. They have to be turned on early, okay? Start that early on in the day, not just so that you can have sex later that night, but because you want to love your wife. And that's her language. You want to make her feel safe. You want to make her feel heard, right? So encouragement goes a long way, friends. It really, really does. Okay. And then here's the deal, the last one is accountability. Because once we learn how to pray for our spouse and with our spouse every single day, and we begin to start encouraging them on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and we begin to start speaking life into them. Proverbs 18:21, by the way, says that there is the power of life and death in the tongue. That whatever we speak over ourselves, that's why you guys have heard me say that I love to go into the bathroom each and every morning when I wake up, and I like to put my hand on my heart and look at myself in the mirror and smile. And I love to say, "Good morning, champion. I love you, Curt Tucker." And I go on about my day. Just something about just that little start of the morning to look at the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, and say, "Hey, I love you." All right. So when you begin to start speaking life out of your mouth, your tongue, the power is in your tongue over your spouse, watch and see what happens. Now, here's the deal. What if they don't begin to start changing every single day right away? You know what? Sometimes you got to keep going. There's a great book called Chop Wood, Carry Water that I read years ago. It's more of a business or an entrepreneur book. But basically, the concept is, listen, you've got to get okay in life and marriage, even in business, doing the mundane things. All right. Like doing the things that are just, you know what, every day, and I want to do those things with gratitude, right? Like I want to help my wife clean up the kitchen with gratitude. It's not a have to, it's a get to. I get to serve alongside her and help her. And I'm not always perfect, but I get to do certain things in our marriage. Why? Because we're a team. All right. So that shows her that I'm committed. So when you learn how to encourage each other and be looking for, like, almost a track, okay, no different than my entrepreneurs, you guys, we track a lot of things. In the business world, we have what's called KPIs, key performance indicators, which is what we focus on to know whether we are doing what we need to do to make sure that the business is thriving. What if we had KPIs in our marriage, guys? What if we had KPIs that said, "Hey, listen, you know what? How many times have I prayed for my spouse this week? How many times have I prayed with my spouse? How many times have I encouraged her this week? When's the last time I sent flower? When's the last time that I had a date night with my wife? Ladies, when's the last time I had sex with my husband? I'm just going to say it. When's the last time that I gave my husband a blowjob? I mean, you're married. You can do anything. It's okay. Anything within your marriage in the bedroom that's just you two that you both agree on is good. But sometimes I'll tell, the guys or the ladies, and I hear my wife say it sometimes, like, "Hey, just have sex with your husband and watch what happens." So here's the deal, you know, moving on now to accountability, friends, that's the third component. And here's what I mean by accountability is when you have your man or woman in the confines of a collective group of people, that's why my wife and I are part of masterminds, and we coach people, is we want to facilitate an environment for personal growth. We want to facilitate an environment where people's minds get leveled up. I was in a marriage meeting with my wife and another couple about a month ago, and it was beginning to start creating some friction. All right. I mean, to the point where I almost thought that, one of the guys that I coached was going to get up and walk out. And, he didn't. And thank God he didn't, because even though it felt like he was just getting, kicked while he was down, by the end of that meetup, man, what they were able to implement together as husband and wife has absolutely been a game changer for them. And I remember the conversation I was having with him afterwards, and he said, like, "Dude, man, that was rough." I go, "I know it's rough, man." I go, "But you know what? That's what facilitates growth. If you go into the gym and you just lift a couple 5-pound dumbbells, that's not really going to build muscle. You've got to put that muscle under resistance, right? And the heavier that you lift with great form, the more that muscle is going to break down. And it's not fun when it gets broken down. But you know what? That's what builds a strong muscle. So that accountability is huge. So I will encourage people, hey, where can you get accountability? Well, you know what? Maybe it's in your church where you join up with a group of people. The Bible study that I lead on Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m. is such an incredible group where I've seen men just continue to level up in all areas of their life. Why? Because they know they're in a room full of other men that are broken, all right, that want to grow, that want to become better. And now each and every time that they come back, we go over what their wins are. So that's a start right there. Maybe it's a local church group. Maybe it's just finding one or two guys that are, solid dudes in your church or locally that you reach out to. One of the things that I'm most humbled by is when I get a private DM. This just happened to me a couple weeks ago, where I had a guy that DM'd me, and he's never had a coach. He's never hired anybody. He's never spent money on something like this. And he was just vulnerable. All right. He had humility to basically say, here's the areas that I'm struggling in. One of them is in my marriage, and I need help. And so, literally we just got started, and already in his marriage, things are changing. Already he's getting into the word, each day. And it's new to him. It is relatively new to him. But you know what? He's winning. He's not only changing in his health, he's changing in his mindset, but here's the deal, he's changing in his marriage. Because for me personally, friends, I can't help another man, and I know my wife feels the same thing about women, is we can't help a person go next level and making more money, which is what tends sometimes to be the thing that people want, especially for me. Hey man, I want to make more money. I want to make more money. It's very in us as entrepreneurs, as men. I can't help you without first saying, listen, you've got to make sure that your faith is your foundation, and that we make sure that you treat the daughter of the king, God's daughter, your wife, the way that she needs to be treated. And you're not going to be perfect, but we got to make sure that we are leveling up and putting the effort in every single day to maximize that relationship, to make sure that that relationship grows and flourishes each and every day. Because just like the season that my wife Rachel and I are in, we've been in Florida for almost 5 weeks now. People see us and they're like, how are you guys here? You guys look too young. And I know Rachel really loves that because she's 53, I'm 43. But our kids, the season of life where they're in the home all the time, it's over, right? They're graduated now, all of them, and only one's left in the house. But, we never focused just on the kids. We built our marriage for such a time like this, where when the kids weren't at the center of everything, they weren't in the mix, that we still had a loving relationship. Because, one thing that I see happen too many times, friends, is people get a divorce right after the kids leave for college or their senior year of school, because they hung on just long enough, sometimes for years, that they're like, you know what, we're just going to get through. And they just become roommates, and they sleep in separate rooms. They don't even sleep in the same bed together, or they don't go to bed at the same time, or they're not intimate or whatever. And man, that just hurts my heart. So friends, if you're struggling with any of those things that I mentioned today with either spouse, or you just don't have the fulfillment that you would like to have in your marriage, and you've stayed with me this long, I just want to tell you that maybe this message is directly for you. With no judgment, understanding that so many people deal with so many of the things that you're dealing with right now. But I want to encourage you, friends, if you will begin to pray for your spouse every single day. Men, pray with your woman every single day. If you don't know what to pray, just pray. I've got it in my book, what I pray for my wife, that daily God would give us direction, protection, correction, wisdom, and favor. Those 5 things, men, that's what I'm praying for my marriage, okay? When you begin to pray, when you begin to encourage each other, to fight for each other, to do those things that I talked about, and you begin to create some type of accountability. I understand not everybody, is at the mindset where they're like, you know what, I need a coach, or they figured out how to resource up. That's what I like to say, because sometimes when I'll talk with somebody and they'll be like, I just don't know. it's funny that when we have somebody give us like $5,000 versus like, hey, it's $500, the $500 people struggle, but the $5,000 people are like, here you go, when they know they need it. And there's people that charge way more than that. I mean, the marriage mastermind that Rachel and I are part of is a very healthy investment. But you know what? That was an easy payment to make each month for us. Why? Because we understand the power of investing in our marriage so that we can have a life of fulfillment. Because let's just be real, friends. When things aren't going good behind the four walls in your marriage, it doesn't matter what else is happening. So I want to encourage you today, love. Okay. I want to encourage you today, encourage each other. I want to encourage you today to empower each other, to speak life over each other, to come together as a team. For Rachel and I, it is Team Tucker. When she wins, I win. When I win, she wins. When we lose, we don't lose, but we learn together and we get better from it. Okay. So I want to encourage you today, friends, to begin to start praying each and every day with your spouse, for your spouse. Encourage each other daily, and then get some accountability in your life, whether it's at your church, in a group, hiring a coach. DM us the word marriage. My wife or I, we would love to serve you any way that we can. We got some incredible stuff that we are taking from what we've invested in and are applying it into our marriages that we mentor. And people are having some massive breakthroughs. And we want that for you. Because you know what, guys? A champion life, it's all about abundance. It's all about freedom. And it's all about victory. It's all about winning in the areas of your life that matter most. And guys, ladies, marriage is one of the most important. So, hey, I love you guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. And if there's anything we can do to serve you, friends, let us know. We'll talk to you soon. Signing off from the beach. God bless. We'll see you later.